He thought it was just another quiet day by the lake, the sun shining bright, the wind moving the trees slowly. He liked to come here alone, away from the noisy city, away from machines and flashing lights. The water was calm, reflecting the sky in a perfect mirror. But today, something felt different. He saw her first from a distance, a small figure near the edge of the water. She looked like no human he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered slightly in the sunlight, almost as if tiny stars were dancing under it. Her hair moved strangely, like it had its own life, floating even without wind. He thought maybe she just wanted to swim. Maybe she was lost. Curious, he walked closer, careful not to make a sound. His feet brushed the grass lightly, but she did not seem startled. She turned slowly, her eyes glowing faintly in colors he could not name. He froze, feeling something strange in his chest, something he could not explain. She smiled faintly, but it was not a friendly smile. It was cautious, careful, as if she was studying him too. The water around her moved oddly, like small ripples forming by themselves. Then, without warning, a shadow passed beneath the surface, dark and fast. He leaned forward, heart pounding, his mind racing with questions. Was it a fish? Was it some kind of creature? His instincts screamed danger, but he could not look away. She stepped into the water, her movements graceful, almost floating. The shadow followed her closely, circling in silence. He felt the chill of fear run down his spine. Something in the air told him this was not a normal lake. Not just any alien or strange creature, but something dangerous, something alive, watching, calculating. He called out, his voice breaking slightly. "Are you okay?" She paused, looking at him with eyes wider now, not afraid, but alert, almost as if she had expected him to appear. She nodded once. "B." Arlie then took another step, but the water reacted violently, splashing as if something huge was beneath her. He could see a ripple, then another, then the shadow moved faster. Suddenly she dived, water exploding around her. He ran to the edge, unsure if he should jump in or stay. The shadow circled, leaving a dark trail under the water. His heart pounded, adrenaline rising. He could hear a faint sound, almost like a whisper calling him or warning him. He knew now that she was not alone, that the lake was not safe. He watched her surface, and for a moment their eyes met. Her gaze was strong, intense, filled with secrets he could not understand. And then she smiled, a small, mysterious smile, not friendly, not threatening, but inviting him into something he could not yet see, something dangerous, something unknown, something exciting. He took a deep breath, ready to step forward, and the water rippled again, something moving under the surface, bigger than anything he had imagined. The adventure had just begun, and he did not know if he was ready. He stood at the edge of the lake, frozen, his eyes locked on the shimmering figure of the alien girl. The shadow under the water moved faster now, darker, larger, and he could see its shape twisting and turning with unnatural speed. His chest tightened, fear mixing with a strange curiosity. He wanted to run, but something inside him screamed to stay, to act. Suddenly she struggled, her hands slicing through the water, splashes flying in every direction. The shadow lunged at her, massive and fast, its shape almost blending with the dark depths. He had no time to think, only to move. He jumped in, the cold water shocking his body, the world around him a blur of motion and sound. He reached her just as the shadow brushed against her leg, sending a shock through the water. She gasped, a sharp alien sound that pierced his ears. And he grabbed her arm, pulling her toward him. The creature circled again, like a hunter planning its next move, its movements intelligent, precise. "You're safe," he shouted, though he didn't know if it was true. His hands burned from the effort of holding her steady, her skin warmer than he expected, soft but strong at the same time. She looked at him, her glowing eyes wide, filled with something between fear and surprise. Thank you," she whispered, her voice strange but clear. He wanted to ask questions, to understand what she was, but there was no time. The shadow moved closer, the water churning as if alive. He felt the pull of danger, stronger than anything he had ever felt, and knew they had only seconds. He grabbed a long branch floating nearby, holding it like a spear, and thrust it at the shadow. The creature recoiled, then disappeared into the darker depths for a moment, leaving ripples that spread across the water. She clung to him, small but surprisingly strong, wrapping her arms around his neck as he swam toward the shore. When they reached the edge, he pulled her out, dripping wet, heart pounding, lungs burning. She stumbled but stayed on her feet, her gaze scanning the water nervously, as if the shadow might return at any moment. "What? What was that?" he asked, voice trembling slightly. She shook her head, eyes filled with worry. "You shouldn't ask. It's not safe," she said, her words almost urgent. He noticed strange marks glowing faintly on her arms, tiny patterns that pulsed with light. He felt the pull of curiosity again, stronger than his fear. But before he could speak, she stepped back, suddenly tense. The air around them changed, charged as if the forest itself was watching. He noticed small ripples along the shore, though there was no wind, no movement. Something was out there, something that didn't want them here. She took a deep breath, then said softly, "We need to go, now." He nodded, unsure why, but trusting her instinct. The way she moved was fast and precise, leading him through the trees along hidden paths he would never have seen. Each step seemed deliberate, like she knew exactly where danger might strike. He followed closely, heart still racing, the thrill of fear mixed with a strange excitement. Behind them, the water settled, calm again, but he knew it was only waiting, watching, planning. Something in the lake had noticed him, had noticed her, and would not forget. He stole a glance at her, the alien girl who seemed so small and fragile, yet powerful in ways he could not understand. And then she turned sharply, leading him into a narrow clearing, her eyes scanning every shadow. "We are not safe yet," she whispered, and he realized that their adventure had only begun. The lake was just the start of something far larger, far more dangerous. He followed her through the thick forest, each step careful, his eyes darting to every shadow. The air smelled strange, sweet but heavy, and he noticed the trees seemed taller, older than any he had seen before. Some of them shimmered slightly, as if their bark held tiny lights moving like fireflies. He wondered if his eyes were playing tricks, but the girl moved with confidence, leading the way. Finally, they reached the edge of the forest, and before him lay a hidden island, small but surrounded by mist and glowing water. Strange plants grew along the shore, their leaves moving slowly, almost as if they were alive. He felt a chill, realizing this place was not like any normal island on Earth. It was quiet, but the quiet felt alive, watching, waiting. She turned to him, eyes serious. "This is where my people live," she said softly, but there was a tension in her voice. "You should be careful. They do not trust outsiders." He nodded, unsure if he belonged here, but curiosity burned inside him. He could not leave now, not after everything he had seen. The alien girl led him along narrow paths lined with strange glowing flowers, some opening their petals as they passed. The ground pulsed slightly under their feet, and he felt a vibration that seemed to respond to her presence. "We must move quickly," she whispered, glancing behind them. "Danger is close." He looked back toward the water, but the lake seemed calm, almost too calm. He shivered, realizing that whatever had been there before had followed them somehow, unseen, waiting. They reached a small clearing, and the girl gestured to a hidden path that went under a rocky arch. "This way," she said, and he ducked as they passed. The path opened into a village. Unlike any human settlement, the houses were shaped like shells, smooth and shining, connected by bridges that glowed faintly under the ground. Alien creature. Rest moved around, some tall and thin, others small and fast, all watching him carefully. Their eyes glimmered like the girl's, filled with colors he could not name. She whispered, "Do not speak unless I tell you. They do not like strangers." He nodded, trying to remain calm, but his heart raced. Every movement, every sound seemed magnified. He felt as if hundreds of eyes were on him at once, judging him, waiting for him to make a mistake. Then she stopped, pointing to a tall structure in the center of the village, made of crystal-like material, glowing softly. "The elders are there," she said. "They will decide if you are allowed to stay." He swallowed, nerves tight, wondering what would happen if they said no. He had already risked so much, and now his fate rested in the hands of beings he barely understood. Before they could reach the elders, a sudden noise erupted from the forest, a loud crash that shook the ground slightly. The villagers stiffened, looking toward the tree line. Their expressions turned wary, and even the girl's eyes widened. She grabbed his hand, pulling him behind a glowing bridge. "Stay low," she whispered. "It's not safe yet." He crouched beside her, heart racing, watching the forest, trying to see what was coming. Something big moved in the shadows, fast and heavy. The air seemed to hum, and he could feel it watching, calculating. He realized this hidden island, beautiful as it was, held dangers he could never have imagined, and the girl looked at him, her eyes glowing brighter for a moment, a silent warning and promise at the same time. "If you survive this," she said softly, "you may understand why I brought you here." He nodded, unsure if he would, but ready to try, knowing that whatever came next could change everything. The forest outside the village was alive with sounds he had never heard before. The wind whispered through the strange trees, carrying faint, almost musical tones. He followed the alien girl closely, her hand tight around his, guiding him along narrow paths. His heart pounded, each step feeling heavier than the last. Suddenly, a roar shattered the quiet, shaking leaves from the trees. The ground trembled beneath them, and he stumbled, catching himself on a glowing root. The girl froze, her eyes wide, scanning the shadows. Then, without warning, a massive creature lunged from the darkness, its claws tearing through the undergrowth. Its eyes glowed like fire, and its jaws opened wide, revealing rows of sharp teeth. He wanted to scream, but the girl grabbed his arm, pulling him sideways just as the creature snapped at where he had stood. They ran, leaping over roots and rocks, the creature following close behind, faster than anything he had seen. Its roar echoed through the forest, and he could feel the vibration in his chest like a drum of doom. The girl moved with grace, her feet barely touching the ground, dodging branches and thorns. He struggled to keep up, lungs burning, muscles screaming. The forest seemed to shift around them, paths changing, trees moving slightly as if guiding her or confusing their pursuer. He wondered if this place was alive, and if it was helping her survive. They reached a small stream, water rushing over smooth stones. The creature hesitated for a moment, then jumped, crashing into the water with a violent splash, sending spray over him. He turned to see its eyes still fixed on them, its body moving with terrifying precision. They had to keep going. There was no safe place here. Not yet. The girl glanced back, her face pale but determined. "Follow me," she shouted, pointing to a narrow canyon hidden by thick vines. He squeezed past the vines scratching his arms, branches snapping under his weight. The canyon was dark, shadows stretching like long fingers, and he felt the creature's presence behind them, hot and heavy. He stumbled over a rock, hitting the ground hard. Pain shot through his leg, but the girl reached down, pulling him up. Her grip was strong, her eyes filled with urgency. "You can't stop now," she said, and he nodded, fear and trust mixing inside him. They moved quickly, weaving through the canyon, each step a test of courage. Suddenly, the canyon opened into a wider clearing, and the creature stopped at the edge, snarling, its massive body glistening, muscles tense, ready to attack. The girl grabbed his hand, dragging him forward again. "We have to confuse it," she said, pointing to a cluster of glowing plants. She ran into them, brushing past leaves that moved on their own, and the creature followed blindly, its focus on her, not him. He paused for a moment, catching his breath, looking around at the glowing forest. The plants pulsed gently, light reflecting off the water nearby, and he realized this forest was not just dangerous, it was magical, alive, helping those it chose. The girl appeared beside him again, smiling briefly, her eyes still alert. "We're not safe yet," she whispered, and he nodded, understanding that every step forward could be a step closer to death. The chase had begun, but it was only the beginning of something far bigger, something he could not yet imagine. And as they ran deeper into the forest, he realized that he was no longer just a human in a strange world. He was part of a story that had already begun without him, a story of danger, trust, and secrets that could change everything he thought he knew. They finally reached the hidden village, breathless, soaked, and exhausted. The alien girl led him through twisting paths lined with glowing plants, their soft light bouncing off her shimmering skin. Villagers peeked from behind crystal-like structures, their eyes curious but wary. He felt their gaze on him, heavy and judging, and a chill ran down his spine. She stopped in front of a massive structure in the center of the village, its walls made of translucent crystal that pulsed softly like a heartbeat. "This is where the elders meet," she whispered. "They will decide if you can stay or if you must leave permanently." He swallowed, heart pounding, unsure if he wanted to know the answer. They entered the building, the air inside thick and warm, almost like it carried a quiet power. Figures sat around a circular table, their faces serious, their eyes glowing faintly in colors he could not name. He felt small under their gaze, like a child caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. The girl stepped forward, bowing slightly, her hands pressed together in a gesture he did not understand. One of the elders, taller than the others, with light rippling across his skin, spoke, his voice calm but strong. "You brought him here," he said, and her nod was slow and precise. "Explain why." She turned to him, eyes full of warning, then back to the elders. "He saved me from the shadow in the lake," she said simply. "He showed courage, and he is not afraid of danger." The elders' eyes narrowed, and he could feel the weight of their judgment. "Courage alone does not decide trust," the elder said. "He is human, and humans are unpredictable." He stepped forward, voice shaky but determined. "I only wanted to help her," he said. "I didn't know what I was getting into, but I can fight, I can survive, and I can learn." The elders leaned forward, studying him, and he felt as if they could see into his mind, every thought, every fear, every hope. A second elder, smaller but with sharp, glowing eyes, spoke. "Humans are fragile, yet sometimes they carry strength beyond their size. This one has faced the lake shadow, and he followed her here, risking his life. That is not weakness." The first elder considered this, eyes moving slowly over him, then back to the girl. "You trust him?" he asked, and she nodded without hesitation. He felt a mix of relief and tension, knowing it was not over yet. The elders were still judging, still deciding, but the girl's trust gave him courage. He could see the weight of their decision in the slow pulse of the crystal walls, the village holding its breath with them. Finally, the tall elder leaned back, voice softer now. "He may stay, for now," he said, "but he must prove himself, prove that his courage is more than luck, that his heart is steady, that he can face what comes next." The girl's eyes lit up slightly, and she gave him a small, encouraging nod. He felt a rush of hope mixed with fear, knowing the real challenges were just beginning. He was not safe yet, not even close, but he had passed the first test, survived the first judgment. He looked at the girl, and she smiled faintly, eyes glowing, almost as if to say, "This is only the beginning." Outside, the forest whispered, shadows moving among the glowing plants, a reminder that danger was never far. That lake shadow, whatever it was still out there, waiting, planning, watching. And he knew now that staying with her would mean more than adventure. It would mean surviving a world that tested courage, trust, and heart at every turn. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the village, and he could feel the tension in the air. The alien girl led him to the edge of a glowing clearing, her steps quick and precise. "This is your first trial," she said quietly. "You must face it to prove yourself." He swallowed hard, looking around at the strange plants, the glowing trees, wondering what danger awaited. The villagers gathered at the edges of the clearing, their eyes glowing softly, silent but attentive. The elders remained in the crystal building, watching, their expressions unreadable. He felt a cold knot in his stomach, but he followed the girl's lead, trusting her instincts. Suddenly, the water nearby rippled, though there was no wind, and a shadow rose from the lake, massive and dark. Its eyes glowed like burning coals, its claws slicing the air. He froze for a second, heart pounding, then the girl nudged him forward. "Move! You can't hesitate," she said, her voice firm. He took a deep breath, muscles tense, and ran toward a narrow path that led around the clearing. The shadow lunged at him, fast and precise, missing by inches, sending a wave of water and energy that knocked him sideways. He scrambled to his feet, slipping on wet stones, adrenaline fueling his every move. The girl ran ahead, weaving between glowing plants, and he followed, trying to anticipate the shadow's strikes. Each attack was faster than the last, and he felt the weight of danger pressing on him. He realized this was more than strength. He needed quick thinking, agility, and courage all at once. He ducked under a branch, feeling the shadow's claws slice the air above him. Sparks flew where they hit the ground, the energy of the creature leaving traces in the glowing dirt. He glanced at the girl, who moved like water, graceful but deadly in her focus, guiding him silently. Then the shadow shifted, splitting into small layer forms, faster and unpredictable. He barely had time to react as one of them brushed against his shoulder, leaving a sharp sting. He stumbled but kept running, heart racing, mind alert, realizing that surviving meant thinking faster than he ever had. The girl stopped suddenly, pointing to a glowing stone at the center of the clearing. "Go there," she shouted. "The shadow cannot reach it if you touch it." He dashed forward, leaping over twisted roots and splashing through shallow pools. The smaller shadows swirled around him, trying to block his path, but he pushed on, fueled by fear and determination. Finally, he reached the stone and placed his hand on it, a surge of energy rushing through him. The shadows recoiled, then vanished, leaving ripples across the water and glowing plants. He fell to his knees, breathing heavily, heart still pounding, and the girl came to his side, smiling faintly, her eyes glowing with pride. "You did it," she whispered. "You faced the shadow and survived." He looked at her, relief mixing with disbelief, wondering how he had managed to stay alive. The elder's eyes glowed faintly from the village, and he knew they had been watching every move, judging every decision. The girl helped him stand, and he realized that this trial was not just about strength, but trust, courage, and the will to keep going even when fear was everywhere. He glanced back at the forest, knowing the shadow might return, stronger, faster, smarter. But for now, he had passed the first real test, survived the first trial, and earned a place, however small, in this alien world. The girl smiled, a rare warmth in her glowing eyes. "This is only the beginning," she said softly, and he nodded, ready for whatever came next. The sun had barely risen, casting pale light across the village, and the alien girl led him to a secluded part of the island, where the trees bent low and strange mists swirled around their feet. "Today you will learn our ways," she said softly. "You must understand our strength if you want to survive here." He nodded, excitement and nervousness mixing inside him. They walked in silence for a while, the only sound the soft rustle of glowing leaves. He noticed strange markings on the tree trunks, glowing symbols that seemed to shift when he blinked. "What are those?" he asked quietly, and she glanced at him with a faint smile. "They are our history, our stories, our warnings," she said. "Every mark has meaning." They reached a clearing where a crystal pool reflected the sky, but the water shimmered in colors he had never seen. "This pool shows truth," she explained, kneeling beside it. "It reveals what is hidden, what is real, and what is dangerous." He stared at his reflection, and for a moment, he thought it moved on its own, lips forming words he had not spoken. The girl reached into the water, and shapes began to rise, swirling around them like tiny living stars. Images of her people appeared, their faces serious, some smiling, some crying, and he realized he was seeing centuries of their history, battles, alliances, and betrayals. "We are strong, but we are also vulnerable," she said, eyes distant. "We must protect each other and our secrets." He reached out to touch one of the shapes, and a sudden shock of energy ran through him, making him stumble backward. The girl laughed softly, a musical sound. "You must learn to respect what you do not understand," she said. "Power is dangerous if not controlled." He nodded, heart racing, realizing this island held more secrets than he could ever imagine. Suddenly, a noise erupted from the forest, low and menacing, and both of them turned sharply. Shadows moved between the trees, more than one, more than he had seen before. His pulse quickened, and the girl's eyes glowed brighter. "They are testing you again," she said. "You cannot run this time." The shadows approached, twisting and coiling, their forms almost liquid. He backed toward the pool, remembering the first trial, trying to steady his breath. The girl moved beside him, her hand brushing his arm, guiding him. "Trust me," she whispered, and he did, following her lead as they circled the pool, looking for openings. The shadows lunged, but the girl's movements were fluid, precise, like water bending around rocks. He followed, copying her as best he could, dodging, jumping, blocking, feeling the thrill and fear surge together. One of the shadows struck near him, sending sparks into the mist, and he realized he had to act or be overwhelmed. Then, she pointed to a set of glowing stones forming a path through the clearing. "Step carefully," she instructed. "The stones will protect you if you are brave." He moved quickly but carefully, balancing on the stones, each step a test of courage, as the shadows struck but could not reach him. Finally, they reached the other side of the clearing, panting, hearts racing, and the shadows dissipated back into the forest, leaving only the soft glow of the mist. The girl turned to him, eyes shining. "You survived," she said. "Not just the shadows, but yourself. You are learning." He looked around, realizing that this island was alive in ways he could barely comprehend, full of danger, beauty, and secrets. and he knew that every step from now on would test him more than the last. He glanced at the girl, and for the first time he felt a strange sense of belonging, as if this world was starting to accept him. The village was quiet that evening, the glowing plants casting long, soft shadows across the ground. He walked beside the alien girl, feeling more confident than before, yet aware that danger could appear at any moment. "You've learned much, but there is still more," she said quietly. "Not everything is as it seems here." He nodded, curious and cautious, and followed her toward a narrow alley between the crystal buildings. The glow of the plants lit their path, but the shadows seemed deeper, almost moving on their own. He shivered, sensing eyes watching them from the darkness. Suddenly, a low whisper echoed through the alley, words in a language he did not understand, but the tone was sharp, filled with warning. The girl stiffened, eyes narrowing. "Someone is here," she whispered, and they pressed close to the walls, trying to remain unseen. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and cloaked, face hidden, and the air grew colder. His heart raced, every muscle tense, unsure if the figure was friend or foe. "Who are you?" the girl asked firmly, stepping slightly in front of him, protective and fearless. The figure tilted its head, silent, stretching like a knife, then stepped closer, the cloak falling back slightly to reveal glowing markings across its skin. Different from the villagers, different from the elders. He realized instantly that this being did not belong here, and a cold dread filled his chest. The alien girl's hand found his, gripping tightly. "Stay close," she whispered, and he did, fear and trust mixing in equal measure. The stranger's eyes glowed red for a moment, then green, shifting unnaturally, and he felt a wave of power push against him, making his legs weak. "You are not welcome," the stranger said in broken common words. "The human. You must leave, or face the consequences." He clenched his fists, anger and fear rising. "I am staying," he sobbed. Aid firmly, voice steady despite the shaking inside. The girl's eyes widened slightly at his courage, and he felt a spark of pride. The stranger hissed, moving closer, the mist of the village swirling around them. "You do not understand what you are in," it said. "This girl, she carries secrets you cannot touch." He frowned, glancing at the girl, sensing the weight of hidden knowledge she had yet to share. The girl's expression was tense, but she did not speak, letting him handle the situation. Then, in a flash, the stranger lunged, fast and silent, aiming for the girl. He reacted instinctively, stepping between them, catching the stranger by the arm and twisting sharply. The cloaked figure stumbled but recovered quickly, moving back, eyes glowing brighter, more dangerous. "You protect her well," the stranger said, voice low and threatening. "But the trials ahead will not be so easy." And with that, it vanished into the shadows, leaving only a whisper in the wind. He stared after it, heart pounding, realizing the danger had only begun and that the village itself might hold enemies hidden in plain sight. The girl exhaled, shaking slightly, and looked at him. "You saved me," she said softly. "But now you see. There are threats even among our people, not just the forest, not just the shadows." He nodded, understanding that trust was fragile here, that courage alone might not be enough to survive. The glowing village seemed peaceful again, but he knew better, watching the shadows flicker in the corners of his eyes. Waiting, always waiting. He looked at the girl, and she smiled faintly, though worry lingered in her eyes. "We must prepare," she said. "The real danger is coming." And as the night deepened, he realized that he had become part of something far larger than himself, a world full of secrets, danger, and mysteries. And the trials were far from over. Each heartbeat reminded him that trust, courage, and quick thinking would be the only things keeping him alive in the days to come. The dawn broke over the alien village, soft light spilling across the glowing plants, but there was no peace, only a tense silence that pressed against his chest, reminding him that danger was near. He stood beside the alien girl, her hand gripping his tightly, eyes sharp and alert. "The shadows are returning," she said, voice low, "and this time, they are not alone." He felt a chill run through him, realizing that the cloaked stranger from yesterday had likely summoned more. He clenched his fists, determination hardening his spine, ready to face whatever came. A sudden roar echoed through the trees, followed by a crash of branches, and from the mist emerged figures, twisted shapes moving fast, their eyes glowing red and yellow. The villagers scattered, trying to hide, but some were already cornered by the advancing shapes. The girl stepped forward, glowing lightly, a faint hum filling the air around her. She raised her hands and energy flared, sending the nearest attackers sprawling back. He followed, grabbing a fallen branch and swinging it instinctively at a shadow that lunged at him, feeling the sharp sting as it grazed his arm. The first clash was chaotic, shapes moving faster than he could track. He ducked, rolled, and struck, learning quickly that speed and timing mattered more than strength. The girl fought beside him, graceful and precise, her movements like water flowing around rocks, unstoppable yet controlled. One shadow lunged straight at the girl, its claws snapping, and he threw himself in front, catching it with the branch, twisting just enough to push it back. She nodded at him, eyes wide with approval, and he felt a surge of courage, knowing he could hold his own. Then, the cloaked stranger appeared again, floating above the clearing, eyes glowing a deep red, power radiating from it like heat. "You meddle where you do not belong," it said. "Voy. To Sharp, you cannot protect her forever." He met its gaze, chest tight, and replied, "I will do whatever it takes." His voice stronger than he expected, the stranger's hand shot out, energy slashing toward him, and he jumped to the side, barely avoiding the strike. Sparks flew where the energy hit the ground, the force shaking the glowing plants. The girl screamed, directing another wave of energy at the shadowy attackers, scattering them like leaves in wind. He felt fear claw at his mind, but he pushed it down, focusing on survival and protecting the girl. Every move counted. Every second could mean life or death. The stranger struck again, faster this time, and he blocked with the branch, feeling the impact jolt up his arms, but refusing to fall. The girl's eyes glowed brighter, her voice rising in a chant. Energy spiraling outward, pushing the shadows back. He ran toward her, feeling the power lift him, giving strength he did not know he had. Together, they fought side by side, a human and an alien, united against impossible odds. Finally, the last of the shadows fell, retreating into the mist, the cloaked stranger disappearing with them, leaving only silence and the echo of battle. He stood panting, arms sore, body trembling, but alive. And he looked at the girl, who smiled faintly, proud yet cautious. "You did well," she said, "but this was only the beginning." He nodded, realizing that the island, the village, and the girl were all tied to dangers far beyond what he had imagined. The fight had tested courage, skill, and trust, but the real challenges were still ahead, and he knew he had to be ready, for both the shadows and the secrets they protected. The sky was dark with swirling clouds, and the island seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for the final test. He stood beside the alien girl, both of them weary from the battles and trials that had brought them here. Her eyes glowed softly, but there was a tension that made his stomach tighten. "The elders have called you," she said, voice serious. "This is where you prove yourself fully, or leave forever." He nodded, understanding that there was no turning back, that everything he had learned, every step he had taken had led to this moment. They walked together toward the crystal building, the path lined with glowing plants and silent villagers, all watching, their eyes full of expectation. He felt their gaze like weight pressing down on him, each step heavier than the last. Inside the building, the elders waited, their faces glowing faintly in the soft light, and at the center stood a pedestal with a shimmering crystal, pulsating with energy. The alien girl stepped back, giving him space. "You must touch it," she said softly, "but it will reveal your heart, your courage, and your choice." He hesitated, hand hovering above the crystal, feeling the power hum through the air, stronger than anything he had faced before. The shadows, the battles, the stranger's threats, all of it built up here. And now it all demanded a final answer. With a deep breath, he placed his hand on the crystal, and a wave of energy surged through him, images flashing before his eyes. The island, the village, the girl, and even the stranger, testing him, probing him, seeing if he was worthy. Fear and doubt tried to grip him, whispers of failure echoing in his mind, but he focused on the girl, on the bond they had formed, on the courage he had found inside himself. Each memory of survival, of trust, and of fighting together gave him strength. The crystal glowed brighter, showing ends of a possible future, One where he failed, and the girl and her village were lost. Another where he succeeded, and the island was safe, and he stood beside her as an equal, protector, and friend. He felt the weight of responsibility, heavier than any battle. Then a voice inside his mind asked clearly and sharply, "Do you choose courage over fear? Trust over doubt?" He did not hesitate, his heart firm. "I choose courage. I choose to protect her. I choose to stay," he thought, voice steady. The crystal flared, blinding him briefly, then dimmed, and he felt a warmth in his chest, a soft glow surrounding him. The alien girl stepped forward, her eyes wide, awe and relief mixing in her gaze. "You passed," she said, voice trembling slightly. "The island has accepted you, and so have we." The elders nodded in unison, approval clear, and the villagers slowly stepped forward, some smiling, some bowing, all showing respect and trust. He looked at the girl, and she smiled fully this time, warmth and pride in her glowing eyes. "You have faced every trial, every shadow, every secret," she said, "and you have chosen to stay, to protect, to fight, and to care." He nodded, feeling a peace he had not known, knowing that his journey had not just been about survival, but about earning trust and belonging. Outside, the sun rose over the island, soft light reflecting on the crystal waters, and he realized that he was no longer just a visitor, no longer just a human in an alien world. He was part of this place, part of her life, and ready for whatever new challenges would come. The trials were over, the battles survived, and the bond between them stronger than any fear. He smiled at her, and she smiled back, a silent promise passing between them that together they could face anything,